Here we go.
How many of y'all have seen a homeless person and either put your head down or across the street to avoid them? Yeah, it's pretty bad. I do that myself, but that's where the problem is. In January 2015, they did a one-night survey to see how many homeless people there were on one night, and they counted 500,000. Keep in mind, that's all they could count. That's not an accurate number. You can't actually count how many homeless people there are laying in the streets. They could be hiding behind cars, sleeping in cars, in trenches, and all these things. But that's where the problem starts. Acknowledgement. People treat these people like they're invisible, like they're not members of society, like they failed once and they don't have another chance. That's where the problem is. And we think that this problem is solved by today, but fortunately not. So I'll be talking about the severity of homelessness, focusing on Skid Row specifically, funding and fighting the homeless epidemic, and helping the homeless helps everyone as a society. I'm going to talk about morals. So according to the Gurney New York Times 2016, people in Skid Row are beat up walkers, beat up wheelchairs, their clothes, they wear winter clothes in the summer, so they're obviously suffering from heat exhaustion, and they all have all these diseases. That's obviously not a livable condition, and despite, according to Peters, FastCompany.com 2016, LA is spending $2 billion a year to fund and make Skid Row livable for them. It's kind of silly that they're funding and cleaning the streets so homeless people can live in. $2 billion of funding and taxpayer money going to funding for homeless people to stay in the streets. Kind of odd. So, they want to maintain the status quo for people living in places like, Skid Row, and then other places too. They also have funding for homeless people to be able to live in the streets. I want to go, right here. I want to go back to that's right next to the Angels Stadium. If you drive down the freeway, you can see a bunch of tents, all homeless people right next to the creek. That's crazy to think. Now that I talked about the severity of homelessness, I'll be talking about funding and fighting for the homeless epidemic. According to the United States Interagency Council of Homelessness 2016, the budget this year calls for $2.5 billion in investment to help homeless people, as in build shelters, provide homeless people with food and clothes, but that money can only last so long, especially if you're not helping them get up from where they are and help them find a job or help them have something long-term for them to live. So, according to McKinney, RT.com 2016, Portland declared its war against homelessness 10 years ago. But in 2016, it's just as bad. People are taking initiative in funding and wanting the homeless epidemic to end, although in their minds, it's just, if we donate more money, that should help them, right? No, donating money just gives them food and shelter for a limited amount of time. That does not help them at all, actually. That just makes them rely on the money and realize, these organizations will help me, therefore staying homeless is, okay. That's what our society is telling them. So now that I talked about the funding and fighting for the homeless epidemic, I want to go into the real vision and a better society. So according to Samuel's Atlantic 2016, Housing First places homeless in Housing First is a program that places people for access to drug and alcohol treatment, as also providing them job training. Unfortunately, this is one vision that a company proposed, although this should be every organization that supports homelessness, because you're not trying to give them shelter and food, you're trying to give them a second chance. You're trying to make them productive members of society. And 500,000 people laying at night, and that's a really big problem. According to Branahan Coalition for Homelessness 2016, established a baseline of human decency and care for those most often marginalized, ignored, and forgotten in our society. So there's our problem. We don't think the problem's that big, and we're going out in the world helping other people come up from poverty, such as like the United Nations and what their efforts are, then we forget that we have people in America. We still have people in America that are just sleeping on the streets with no help. And unfortunately, my question that I asked in the very beginning, how many of you ignore these people? That's where the problem is. You ignore them because you don't want to deal with it. And then, actually, let me go back to this picture right here. Please solve this problem by throwing money in it. Unfortunately, it may seem like a good deed that you're giving the homeless people money, although that's not really helping them at all, really. If you gave them $1 or $2, what is that going to do? If anything, that's pity, which I personally don't support. I support you donating to organizations that help them and make them into, productive members of society. So, I talked about the severity of homelessness. I was focused on Los Angeles. I talked about how funding and how we should fight the homeless epidemic, and what you really should do, what we all should do to help these people. And let's go off on a tangent. No, it's fine. So if you want to learn more, I advise watching this documentary, The Motel Kids of Orange County. This is right here in Orange County. This is what these kids have to deal with day to day, living in motels, living not paycheck by paycheck, but how much money you give them on the streets, and that's how they live. So I advise you to watch that. And